And good evening, everybody. Welcome to College Football Wraparound. I'm Cooper Naylor. So glad that you can be here tonight. And as you can see, we are back here in the studio. And I've got a little something special here. Look what I've been able to do. You know that I purchased a new camera recently. And well, now we got shots like this. So we got a camera right here. And then we got our front-facing camera. So got a couple of angles. So it's a little bit more aesthetic to our whole college football wraparound show here tonight. So either way, we're going to dive into, of course, you saw the thumbnail. Blake Anderson of Utah State. He's been fired, but there's a story to it all. So we will see how this is all going. Then we're going to dive into, we're going to look at if the ACC was to implode, what truly would it look like? And this is going to come from my opinion. So this is how I believe. And if you truly believe that this would be something that you would want to do, I may put a poll out for you so that you could vote on it and see how you would think the ACC, where the teams would disperse to. And then also I'll dive into my 13 through 16 rankings. Other than that, I'll take your questions as well if you have any tonight. And so that's the plan for tonight's show. Going to be a good one. So let's dive into this right now. And of course, we're going to start by talking about the man himself, Blake Anderson. And so this whole situation is very interesting. Oh, I forgot to mention, before I get into this, there is going to be an announcement at the very end. Something that you remember me doing last year that I haven't even spoke on. Well, I'll make an announcement about that at the end of the show tonight. So let's get into this. So this is an article coming from KUTV, which is local in Utah. This is from Logan, Utah. So this is going to give us some information about, and this is local news, so this should be pretty accurate about what is going on with this whole Blake Anderson situation. So this article reads, the attorney for Utah State University football coach Blake Anderson, who is in the throes of being fired, signaled Anderson will not go without making his case against the university's actions. And so this is what you're about to hear is a quote from Tom Mars, who is the sports attorney for Blake Anderson. He says, I can tell you that Coach Anderson can and will refute the alleged grounds for termination and indisputable evidence. And then in an email to 2 News Wednesday, this is about a week-old article, Mars seemed to take issue with assertions by Utah State. He said, I can also say that notwithstanding USU's statement and reporting that followed, none of what's involved here is even remotely connected to the situation. That I'll clean that up for those of you who want to go online and furthermore look at it. So, a lot of these are allegations that, to be honest, in today's society, not a shocker that we see allegations like these, but for a guy like Blake Anderson, kind of interesting. Now, digging more into Blake Anderson, I'm going to just make sure I get this right. Now, a couple of years ago, Blake Anderson's wife did pass away from cancer. So it is kind of an interesting, it's a very interesting allegation considering that, and I'm not saying just because his wife died that he wouldn't do anything like this. I'm not saying that. I just don't think we should start throwing ourselves over into a assertion of, oh, this happened. there is someone coming forward saying putting these allegations forward, but whether we know it's true or not, we will see, because there's going to be a lot of court coming. And, these situations are never, it never goes lightly. Now, here is the question, okay? Because I think that the big question we have here is, are we going to turn this into a situation like Art Briles, where you have these allegations come out? Now, he may be completely innocent of the whole situation, but here's the thing: are we going to make it like Art Briles and basically say, "Oh, you can't coach no more. You can't coach at college football. You can't coach in the NFL. You can't coach anywhere"? Are we going to do that, or are we going to actually give the man another chance if he is innocent? Now, that is the big question we have. So, comment below what your thoughts are on the situation. Also, if you've been following it, comment below what you think of this whole situation. Because, like I said, this is an ongoing development. Of course, last week, like I told you, it was reported that Utah State was looking to fire him. And I told y'all that I was going to wait a week and kind of get more information. Well, the information still hasn't, it's not a whole lot of information yet. So what we have so far is that there are allegations against Blake Anderson, and he has been fired for it. What his attorney has said is that they are going to fight back against these allegations, because they're saying that Blake Anderson is innocent. There is an accuser, but he's saying that he's innocent. So we're going to wait and see what is going to happen with this situation for Blake Anderson at Utah State. But again, here's the thing I want to reiterate. Until the man is found innocent or guilty, until after the whole court situation, the way I believe that it should be handled is this. I think that everybody needs to look at it and be like, just be silent on it for a minute. Just let it unfold, and let's see where it goes. And like I said, I'm not going to take a stance whether I believe he's guilty or innocent. That's just me personally. I'm not going to jump to conclusions on this yet. I'm bringing you what is happening within the college football world. So, that is pretty much all I have to say on this situation with Blake Anderson. And so, now we're going to move on. So, I've been thinking for the past week, because Florida State and Clemson have been saying that they are going to, well, pretty much, if they win their court case against the ACC, then they're leaving because of the way the money is dispersed. They feel like they can get more money going elsewhere. Well, what I'm about to show you, folks, I'm going to go to my PC camera. Here you go. Here we go. This is what I believe the teams that are from the ACC, I believe this is where they would end up. So, here's what you're looking at. I'm going to start with going from the Big 12 to the Big 10 to the SEC right here, okay? So the Big 12, in my opinion, they will pick up Cal, Georgia Tech, SMU, Stanford, and Wake Forest. Now, Cal, SMU, and Stanford are the three that joined the ACC after the Pac-12 imploded, and then SMU was just another team that jumped on. Now, if you want my honest opinion about Georgia Tech and Wake Forest, first of all, I don't think Wake Forest would be taken by either the Big Ten or the SEC. That's just my opinion. I feel like they would just be thrown to the Big 12. And then, in all honesty, Georgia Tech, I don't see them. I just don't see them as a Big Ten team. They're not a team that would go to the Big Ten, in my opinion. And I don't see them going back to the SEC. Whether people believe that is something like ridiculous for me to think that, they left the SEC a long time ago. I don't know if they want to go back. So the Big 12 is where I think they will end up. And plus, with these 5 teams going to the Big 12, I think it would be very interesting to see how this Big 12 looks. And then for the Big 10, I see Boston College, Duke, North Carolina, Pitt, Syracuse, and Virginia. Now, if you look at these 6 teams that I have coming to the Big 10, the reason why I do is because all academic-wise, I think it makes the most sense for these 6 to go. Duke and North Carolina. Duke is a very prestigious school, and so I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go to the Big Ten. North Carolina, I think they're following Duke wherever they go. Boston College, again, academic-wise, I think it makes a lot of sense. Pitt, Syracuse, Virginia, same thing. And then you look at the SEC. I see Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, Miami, NC State, and Virginia Tech. Clemson and Florida State, pretty simple. I think because of their rivalries with South Carolina and Florida, it makes a lot of sense. And then if you look at it from Louisville's side, you got your rivalry with Kentucky. Miami, I think they're following Florida State to the SEC. NC State and Virginia Tech, I feel like both of them, I think they just fit the SEC. For some reason, there's just a part of me that thinks they're SEC schools. So coming back to me for a minute, to be honest, I think that's how I see the ACC. As you can see it up in your top right corner, I just feel like that is where these teams are going to end up. Unlike the Pac-12, I believe all of these 17 schools will have a home within what I'm going to call the Big Three or the Power Three, because the Big 12 is not going to implode. Big 10 won't. SEC won't. So now comes the question of what will these conferences look like? Well, let me give you an idea. So here is a long list of what these conferences will look like. I know that it is a lot to digest right now. Just how ridiculous, how ridiculously big these conferences will be if this were to happen. So for the Big 12, we'll start with them. You got Arizona, Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, Cal, Cincinnati, Colorado, Georgia Tech, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, SMU, Stanford, TCU, Texas Tech, UCF, Utah, Wake Forest, West Virginia. And then if you look at the Big Ten, you got Boston College, Duke, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska, North Carolina, Northwestern, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Purdue, Pitt, Rutgers, Syracuse, UCLA, USC, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin. And then the SEC, you got Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Clemson, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisville, LSU, Miami, Mississippi State, Missouri, NC State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, and Virginia Tech. So, again, if you really truly look at that, I don't think it's crazy to assume that this wouldn't happen. I mean, the ACC is hanging on for dear life. It all depends on that court case between Clemson, Florida State, and the ACC. Clemson and Florida State, like I said, is alleging that they are not getting the money they deserve. The ACC are just trying to make sure that they can get this swept under the rug. So I think and here's my prediction, folks. My prediction is this. Clemson and Florida State will win. The ACC will implode. And that I showed you will happen. So right now, what I want to do is give you a chance to get your opinions. Do you think that I am right in these early, like all 17 schools will be dispersed the way they are? If you disagree, let me know why you disagree, because I want to know. So this is your chance to comment below and let me know. Also, here in just a few minutes, after I take your questions, I will get to my rankings 13 through 16 so that you can get an idea of where the middle of the pack will be. So this is your chance to comment below and let me know. So here is Colton Naylor says that this is a pretty good list. Well, thank you. Thank you. He also said that the SEC would get 100 times stronger. Now, I do agree with that. I do agree that the SEC would get much stronger from this. So Colton Naylor also says, would love to see the Big 12 get Florida State or Miami. The most likely of the two that if they were to go to the Big 12, to be honest, would be Miami. I think it's pretty much a done deal. Florida State would go to the SEC. It makes too much sense for Florida State to be in the SEC. And the reason why I said Miami would go to the SEC as well is because of the rivalry between Florida State and Miami. I just don't see them wanting to make that a out-of-conference rivalry game. Plus, I don't think they want to lose that. So I think them two would be a package deal, if you understand what I'm saying. All right, so that is all the comments for right now. We are going to move on. So, all right, we're going to look at my rankings 13 through 16. Here you have it. So, number 13, you got Ole Miss. Number 14, LSU. 15, Texas A&M. And 16, Clemson. So, first of all, at 13, Ole Miss, I think that this is a perfect spot for them because they lost Quinshon Judkins, their star running back. And I think this year is going to have to be you got to have a pretty good passing attack if you are Ole Miss this season. I think they have a chance. They could be a really good passing team. But are they really going to be that incredible? I don't know. And so that's why I put them at 13 because I think it's going to take a lot for them. And plus, Jackson Dart, I believe he's coming back. He hasn't shown the ability to be the most prolific passer. I feel like he's going to have to show me just a little bit more to get over that hump and say Ole Miss can be a championship contending team this season. So 13, I think, is an appropriate spot for Ole Miss. And then you have LSU at 14. Really, I think for LSU, what this comes down to is how is the replacement of Jaden Daniels? Now, Jaden Daniels, as you know, was the star quarterback for the LSU Tigers the past couple of seasons. Plus, he was perfect for the Brian Kelly system that he brought from Notre Dame. So for Jaden Daniels, he's now in the NFL. So what does this LSU team look like? I think 14 is about right for LSU this season. There's a lot of players. Plus, what you're going to see is, in my announcement, you are going to see the reason why I think LSU could be a really good team. So 14 for LSU, I think, is a perfect spot. And then at 15, Texas A&M. Mike Elko's first season, I think it's going to be a good season. But it is a first year. So 15, I mean, I'm not saying, I think my thing is I don't think they'll be in the college football playoff this season. But they have a chance to get there, especially with it being a 12-team playoff now. They're going to get there. They're Texas A&M. They will get there. So at 15, I think is a perfect spot for them. And then Clemson at 16, I feel like they're a team that has drastically dropped off, but I feel like they'll have good enough defense that they will be a decent team this season. I think at best you're looking at 10-2 for Clemson. So 16 for the Clemson Tigers. I think it's a great spot for them to be at right now. All right. So that is my rankings 13 through 16. And now is for the time that I told you I would tell you about here at the end of the show. And that is that beginning next Tuesday at noon on YouTube, on my YouTube community post, and then on my Facebook page, the top 40 players in 40 Day series is returning. Now, granted that the series is returning, but we're adding 10 more players to this list. So last year we had top 30 players. This year is 40. So we're going from 40 up to number 1. And this is my top 40 players. So you're going to get a chance to see who I think is going to play really good in this upcoming college football season. So I'm excited to present that to you. So next Tuesday around noon, be on the lookout because the first player number 40 will be coming out. So what we're also going to do is during college football wraparound, whether it's one player or if it is 6, we're going to discuss those players that had been unveiled to the point of the show. So we'll have one to talk about next Tuesday night, and then we'll have a bunch to talk about the next Tuesday, and so on and so on. So everyone, that is pretty much all I have for tonight. And, you know, it's going to be a great college football season. Top 40 players is coming back, and we're leading you right into college football action beginning August 24th. So it's going to be a great season for sure, and I'm so very excited. So we'll see you again later. Good night, everybody.